Okay, my friends, welcome. It's morning here in General Santos area. It's about 2 or 3 days after that huge quake. There's been about 100 plus tremors recorded off the coast, and some of them significant. We had another one last night, a little bit. So that's what's going on here in this day and age in 2026 in near General Santos. But something happened to me today, and I want to talk about the power of hope. Hope is a great character vibe. If we don't have hope, life isn't worth living. We're downcast. So all of us that have been downcast and have failed in life, even early in life, I just got inspired by something. I was listening to a video from a year ago. It showed up in my YouTube feed by a guy named Beato. Rick Beato. I'm listening to George Winston, December. It's like an hour and a half composition of several songs for that season in his own style. So, but I was listening to Rick Beato, and he talked about how much of a failure he was in high school. It's a very bad grade point average. When I went to high school, we didn't have GPAs. All right, so but he's about the same age as me. We were just in a different part of the country. And then he was trying, all his friends, he told the story of how a year before, all his friends were talking about, where are you going to go to school? Some were going to go to trade school, some were going to go to college, music guys trying to get into music colleges. And so Rick had an interest in music. He played in an orchestra, he played the tall bass, but he wanted to go to school to play guitar in Ithaca, New York area, or somewhere around there. And he just had terrible grades, and he went everybody goes into the guidance counselor. So he told a story, and the guy told him, with these grades, you're just not going to get into a college. You're just not going to get in. So, but he talked about his mother, and his mother gave him hope. Every time he had a bad report card or whatever, she would tell them, they don't know how to teach you. You're smarter than they are. They don't know how to teach you. You're smarter than they are. And I want to talk about the power of a mother that gives hope to her children. It's a fantastic thing. And hope is confident expectation. In the scriptures, that's what it means. You can be assured something good is going to happen to you in your life. That's what hope is. But the gospel hope is especially about that, but even more so about the afterlife, because it says that Jesus, his gospel, brought life and immortality to light through the gospel. So the gospel is all about that there's life after death. That's one of the main hopes. It says there's one hope of your calling as a Christian, and that means you can expect, like Jesus was raised from the dead, you'll be raised from the dead too. You're never going to die. See, once the truth that the gospel worldview that's different than the atheist worldview is that the atheists believe when they die they're going to go back to nothingness before they existed. But the contention in the gospel and in the Old Testament is once we are given life as a gift from God, because he's generous, not stingy, he wants to give us something so we can experience it, because he's generous. He wants to share with us what he has, which is being alive. Once we're given alive by him in the womb, once we come alive with a soul and a spirit, the spark of life, not just flesh, that we will live forever, even though we physically have to die. So there's a soul in us. It reminds me of my oldest daughter, Jan, when her mother died, my first wife. She was holding her, and Jan's not a demonstratively emotional person. She's I would say on certain personality tests, which I don't put a lot of stock in because they don't test character, and is that she's intellect. She can get into any college. Very smart, a brilliant, instant, masterful piano player from being a little kid could listen to her play every day. It's just fantastic. You can sit down and just start playing and close her eyes and just put her own style in it like George Winston. And that's who I'm listening to today. And while I was listening to it, I heard his variation on Pachelbel canon in D. He did it in C, and I pulled out my 12-string guitar, which has a broken 11th string. I broke it the other day. It was so out of tune from sitting for a couple weeks. I struggled to tune that sucker. Holy smokes. I thought I'm going to have to get help. I have special tuners, and I cannot tune this. I had to follow a certain method to just tune the six main strings and forget about the other little strings. And oh, I was struggling and struggling, and then finally I got it. So I was sitting here sipping my coffee, enjoying the bird sounds in the morning and the sun coming up. And it's not hot here this morning. And I have my feet up on the bed, sitting in my chair and sipping cacao coffee with some cacao in it, and just enjoying my morning, talking to my friends. And so I had to get up, and I just didn't want to play guitar today. But when Paco Bell came on and I thought I got to play along with this because I know how to add to the song. I don't know much about guitar, but I know a certain pattern that I can use up and down the neck to add to the song. So it's fun to add ad lib to a song, and I just love that song. It's such a touching song. It makes me almost want to cry. It's so lovely. It's such a lovely song. It's like my favorite. If I was going to get married at one again, I would put that in my wedding. It's just almost brings me to tears, but it lifts me up. But I'm talking about hope, and so that song gives me good feelings and almost feelings of hope. And so Rick Beato had a mother that gave him hope, and I did too. And so Rick went on, and he was very successful. He eventually, through auditions and practice and skills, got in as a guitar major at one college. But somebody asked him, when he was there, why don't you play the bass in our orchestra? Because he wanted to play the bass in this orchestra at this school. And he said, what? And he heard heard Rick play. He said, why aren't you a bass major, the big, tall bass? So he switched, and he eventually got a master's degree. And he went back to the school as a substitute teacher to run the orchestra there. And the guidance counselor said, hey, what are you doing here? He said, I'm here to teach. Oh, really? And he said, yeah, remember you said I couldn't get in? Well, I got in. I'm in my master's degree program right now at another college, and for this and that. And the guy looked at him and said, that's good. I'm glad for you, whatever. So it was really cool. And it reminded me of a story of my mother. My mother gave me hope. I was a downcast kid, right? That's one of the bad character vibes I had. I was downcast. I needed to learn how to flip that to be hopeful and have joy and be happy every day. And I am. And so it worked. But I had a bad habit. And I told my mom, I don't know, this is hurting me. I don't know if I do this. It was a bad habit. And she said, well, you'll quit when you want to. You'll quit when you want to. She's very mild. She wasn't severe. Like, you quit. You need to quit. And you stupid kid and dummy and smack. No, she's like, you'll quit when you want to. And that stuck in my mind. And sometime after that, I did quit. And it was because she gave me hope when I had no hope. And people that can do that, because we all get downcast. We have severe problems. Life is severe. And there's a hidden character trait behind it all. There's a silver lining. And I'm saying that silver lining is character. That's the hidden reason why it's all happening. And it's about hope. God has hope. He's hoping and expecting confidently that something good will come into your life because of your troubles. And that's what happened to me, and I believe it with all my heart. But my mom gave me hope, and I just want to say, God bless the mothers that gave us hope. That is such a great character trait. It's not optimism. It's possibilities. I used that same thinking when I was in college because I did disasters early on in college. The first couple of years, I did not succeed. I was distracted. You know what happens at college. And I had almost no way to pull myself up. And so things changed in my life, and I had to start studying. And I did very well, but it wasn't good enough to get that GPA up to where I could just get into any door. So while I was in college, I thought, why don't I get an internship? So I went to the head of the department. Yeah, it was it wasn't liberal arts. I was in a very complicated major for very, very smart people, and I wasn't. I don't know how I got in there. And he said, well, you can't. There was this great internship that I could get with the state, and it was paid for 6 months. He said, you better not try. You can't do this. So I didn't listen to him. And I went and I got the sucker through interviews and testing. I ranked really high. I even took a test in Pittsburgh, PA in the middle of the winter, drove in a terrible snowstorm from Johnstown, PA to Pittsburgh, took a test in a government building, and I did very well. Was like the top 2 person in the state for this internship. And I don't know how it happened. I had verbal interviews with a group of people from the state. They asked me all kinds of questions, scenarios. I had to write stuff down. How would you react to these kinds of people at the job? And I eventually I got it, and then it was fantastic because I said, why not? Even though I didn't have the grades for it, I got it. And I'm not saying that'll work today. It's a different world. And I got 2 other internships at the school because I thought, I'm going to try to get experience because that's what companies want. And even though my grades were not what they should be in a technical program, I got the internships. One for the administration of the school. I was developing screens before there was images. It was all data. I was developing menus for algorithms for the mathematics department, PhD leaders. So they could run their algorithms and functions, and then I had another internship where they let me manage and run the computer lab. All right, and I had a key to open and shut the door on the weekends, and they entrusted that to me, and so it was fantastic. And then a major corporation, the leader in that technology, the undisputed heavyweight forerunner, the source of the industry, started the industry, came to our college and talked about what it's like to work for them. And I thought, I don't have the grades, but man, that would be a great company to work for. And so it happened a year later. I got hired through a 4 iteration interview with different people in Raleigh, North Carolina, when they had an ad. And I got in, and it was a great season of my life. I didn't work there beyond 10 years because I had other interests in life, but it made me a better person. They were a very meticulous, careful company, had highest standards, personal conduct standards, and communication standards with the customer. And they were a great company. They would hire you even if you didn't have a technology background. They'd check your attitude. They were a character-based company in hiring and in working and in rewarding their employees. They would even say things every year like, do you feel like you're using all your talents? It was great. They were trying to get you to really actualize as a person. It was fantastic. Loved that season of my life. But, let me end it with this. What if I fall? Oh, my darling, what if you fly? The little bird said to the mother bird when he's in the nest, what if I fall? And she said, oh, my darling, but what if you fly? She gave that bird hope. You have a possibility to do something if you have somebody that gives you hope, or you can find hope somewhere, that you can confidently expect something good, if you try, if you believe, will happen to you in this life. So that's a great story. Rick Beato, I'm so glad I heard about your story and you explained it in great detail in a 20-minute video. And I just want to say thank you, Mom. You're a great person. You had a great personality. You're so good-natured. I just bless your name. And I bless all the moms out there that are giving their children hope. Because we're downcast. We're struggling. Our grades aren't good. Not all of us are that excellent. But we turn out to be successful for some reason. And I'm telling you, one of the main reasons is we had a mom that gave us hope. May you have hope. May you get it too.